What's going on, everybody? Zack Rosenblatt here with Kaye. We're at the worst FedEx Field in Landover, Maryland, which is one of 32 NFL cities, or I guess 31 technically, because two teams play in East Rutherford.
Well, and two teams play in LA too. So
okay, touche. So I messed that up pretty bad.
Yes, you did.
You got my point, guys. It's a city.
You also said the worst FedEx Field. Is there another FedEx Field? Hey, look, listen. It was
the point is it's a rough place to be at. If you're hearing a lot of noise, it's because all they have are open press box areas for us to record this podcast, but we're doing it for you. Another Eagles,
we're so brave. We're so brave, you know?
Yeah. We deserve a medal for this. No, we're kidding. But another poor first half performance from the Eagles against a bad team. Another great end of the game from Carson Wentz. It's a lot to process in terms of that. Before we do fully get into the post-game pod, I just wanted to give you guys one more reminder. You got to sign up for our EaglesExtra. It's 2 weeks free right now, and then it'll be $4.99 a month after that. I think you really like it. We had some really good engagement today with some fans during the game. We've been sending out texts even since we started recording this. We sent out quotes from the post-game locker room, some stuff you're not getting anywhere else.
And you know what? Those first 2 weeks that are free, if you sign up Monday, you'll get it through the playoff run. Yeah. So you'll get all of our post-game stuff after the Cowboys Week 16 matchup.
Leading up to it, yeah.
Yeah, and also you'll get all the Giants stuff. So if if we get a Josh McCown game because the Eagles, well, no, I guess right now Dallas is killing the Rams. So
it's crazy.
Week 16 is basically going to determine it all, and that could make Week 17 very important as well because you got to close it out, even if you do beat the Cowboys. So we're going to have a ton of information. You'll have some behind-the-scenes stuff. Like we talked to Greg Ward about his game-winning touchdown catch, and then you talked to Miles Sanders about his two record-breaking marks that he set in this game as well.
And the crazy touchdown pass from from Carson Wentz to him, which we're going to talk about for a while, I think, because it was one of the best throws I've ever seen. But yeah, just so you can find the link to sign up at NJ.com/Eagles, and it's in all of our stories. We've tweeted about it. I hope you guys follow us on Twitter at this point. At Zack Blatt, at Mike_E_K.
The worst Twitter, the worst Twitter handle in sports.
You have to spell out every part of it because it's complicated, but
you got to earn it.
Anyway, all right, let's get into this game now. It's another one where I personally still come out of it thinking the Eagles just aren't that good, and I think it's hard to think anything other than that. But you do have to feel pretty good about the fact that Carson Wentz is getting a lot better at not panicking at the end of games.
Yeah, I would agree with that completely. I think when you look at this team, there doesn't seem to be a lot of panic in general. You know what I mean?
That is one thing Doug Peterson's good at. Everybody keeps their composure. You can criticize Doug for a lot, but not that.
Jason Peters, in back-to-back weeks, has just basically told the younger guys, look, we got to empty the tank. If we don't win this game, we're going home. And I think that's really important. I think having veterans like that is very important. For as much flack as Jason Peters kind of gets for his weekly false start and him regressing and being older and all that stuff, I think he commands respect. If Jason Peters calls you out or looks you in the face, there's going to be some respect.
Oh yeah, nobody's behind it. Oh yeah, if Jason Peters says something, you listen. That by the way, that's another besides that, he's great kind of thing you just
yeah. But he's just. He's still playing well. Yeah.
Well, he had some bad moments, but yeah.
Sure.
But yeah, they're on a 2-game winning streak now against two teams. When we looked at this 3-game stretch, even just a few weeks ago, Dolphins, Giants, Redskins, we're all right, this is literally the easiest stretch of their season, regardless of the fact that 2 of the games are on the road. There's no question. Those are 3 teams that going into that game had either 2 or 3 wins.
Yeah, sure.
No, they all had 2 wins going into the game. Yeah, because the Dolphins had 2, the Giants had 2, the Redskins had 3.
Yeah.
So the Redskins are so much better. The point being, they should have won these games, and it should have been pretty easy for a team that we all thought was a Super Bowl contender. They're not a Super Bowl contender, but they are a division contender, and now they're playing for all the marbles next week.
I think sometimes we can sometimes it's good to just be in those critical moments and learn what your team is, and I think that gives you confidence. Now, I thought the offense started off strong, put up 10 points in their first 2 drives. Then I believe they had 37 yards in their following 3 drives. That's not good, especially when you have a defense who I thought played more on the bad side than the good side.
Yes.
this secondary needs to be retooled. Like it's
My God.
I thought
We were wrong about the secondary coming into the season. I guess we overestimated the young players, honestly.
Well, I think it was easy
I think the team
too.
did too. Yeah.
Because I think, and it's something I brought up in the offseason, they have a lot of, like, what you would consider pretty good depth corners. And
Not
then
number 1 and number 2 guys.
Yeah, I mean, I think Darby's a number 2 on a good defense.
And on a good day, which he doesn't always
Right,
have.
right. Well, the thing is, too, is I thought the pass rush definitely let the secondary down in this game.
I don't even think they technically had a sack.
They didn't touch Haskins.
Yeah.
There was
that play at the end of the game, but they didn't. They called it a team sack.
Yeah, they called it a team sack.
So not a single player got a sack technically.
Right, before the final play of the game, they didn't hit him.
It took the very final play of the game where it was going to be a Hail Mary.
And this is a Washington team that did not have Trent Williams,
Bad
did not have
line.
Brandon Sheriff.
Eric Flowers.
Eric Flowers is starting.
Was playing, by the way.
Right, yeah, that should tell you everything. And it just kind of seems like Brandon Graham was on a tear for a really good
he slowed down.
portion of the, and now he's just kind of, he's middling.
He did better against good offensive line, which is kind of weird.
I think he is a guy that kind of plays up to his comp. Yeah. He wanted to get 10 sacks. Now he's got 2 games to get 2.5 to get
doable,
there.
Yeah,
it's doable, but he's been shut out in the last 3 games. I think this defense. Look, Jim Schwartz getting a lot of flack, and it's kind of a game-to-game thing because he called a really good game against the Giants, and all of a sudden I'm looking at Twitter and oh my God, he's terrible again. Well, it's not his fault that Avonte Maddox misses an easy open tackle or tackle on Terry McLaurin, who scores a 75-yard touchdown instead of just picks up a 15-yard completion. Maddox also got beat in the end zone too. Maddox had like one of the most up and down games I can recall for a defensive back. He had a really nice pass break up on third down in the second quarter.
And essentially gave up 2 touchdowns.
Right, yeah. I mean, well, and then he had at the end of the game, he blitzed, got his hands on Haskins. Haskins threw the ball behind him for some reason, allowed Nigel Bradham to pick it up and score a touchdown. Maddox has regressed. I would say Jalen Mills has regressed as the season's gone on.
Or he's just what he was before.
Yeah, I mean, he's regressed to what he is, and because I thought he was playing at a very high level those first 3 weeks, and then, it's just, look, this defense isn't getting pressure. They're not creating turnovers. They've gotten lucky at times. The linebacker group's not that good. The defense seems to get penalties consistently. That was like one of the big turnarounds in this game is during the first half, they had 5 penalties for 44 yards. I think they finished with only 7 penalties in the game. So that helped. But penalties are really hurting this team early, especially on defense.
Yeah, let's get into some good, bad, and ugly because there was some good, there was some bad, and there was some really bad. We can start with the good stuff. Let's talk about that throw. Well, actually, let's talk about Miles Sanders first in general.
Yes.
So Miles had his best game of his career. He had
122
total yards. He broke the Deshaun Jackson record and the LaShawn McCoy rushing record for rookies. 122 yards rushing. He's 50 yards receiving on 6 catches, 6 targets, 2 touchdowns. I mean, he was absolutely stellar. You and I kind of joked before we started recording, like, I'm sure the Eagles front office is like, thank God we finally got right on one of those guys, because we're going to talk about this probably in the ugly portion. J.J. Arcega-Whiteside does not look as promising. But Miles Sanders, we're going to talk about that catch, so let's hold that. But he had a run for 56 yards on 3rd and 10, which is like almost like a give-up play where you're just like, all right, let's just get closer and punt it or try and get the field, whatever. He got 56 yards on that. It was a great play. He just runs with confidence now. He doesn't go side to side as much. He goes north to south. He breaks tackles. He falls forward. He's catching everything. All the questions you had about him coming in, he's not fumbling the ball anymore. He's not dropping it. He's pretty good in pass protection now. Like, they just have to be absolutely ecstatic about this guy. They don't win this game without him.
Oh, absolutely not. He is the reason why they won this game, because he kept it close. He really... So he had the first 100-yard rushing game for a running back for the Eagles since LeGarrette Blount did it in week 4 of 2017. He also had the first 100-yard rushing game for a rookie since Bryce Brown in 2012.
Bryce Brown, wow.
So the dude has put together a quiet but impressive rookie season. Deshaun Jackson's 1,008-yard scrimmage yard mark was an impressive feat, and nobody's been able to get it break it in 10 years. Well, or 11 years. And here's Miles Sanders doing that. The rushing record, he actually broke the rookie rushing record for the Eagles on that 56-yard run. But look, he's got 2 games left. I think a couple of things have happened in the last 3 games that we've kind of learned about. The Eagles had practice squad players that can actually be more productive than the players that they had initially on their roster. And then Miles Sanders has almost all but confirmed that Jordan Howard's probably not going to be here next year.
Yeah, he's proven they don't need him.
Yeah, he can be
if they can get Howard at a discount and he can be your power back, then that's fine. But this game in particular was where I was like, okay, they have their guy.
He can be
they can get a low price veteran and be the backup.
Yeah, and he could be an every down guy, I think, in my opinion. And look, you just paid Carson, so you've got to figure out what you want to pay,
and you don't want to use the money on the running back position.
Boston Scott looks like a capable backup. You'd still need to bring in probably a draft pick and like a low cost veteran. But listen, Miles Sanders could be the dude like out of the backfield for a pretty long time. I was extremely impressed by the way he ran today. That 56-yard run was on a delayed handoff, and his vision on that play was fantastic. He, like you said, he was very confident and rushed up the hole. Like he found an opening and he did it. There are times where he will dance a little bit, but LaShawn McCoy did that too. I mean, it's not. Yeah. He is a rookie. I'll give you a nugget that I'm writing about later on. I asked Jason Peters, who's been around a lot of really good running backs in his career,
Shady,
who he would compare him to. He goes, he's on that Shady level. And that's a massive compliment coming from Jason Peters, I think.
Who's a big fan of Shady. He talks about it.
Oh, yeah, that's his boy. But, again, I think Miles Sanders is one of the 3 big stories to come out of this game. And he's the biggest because even if they don't win...
Because of what it means,
Yeah, what it means moving forward is they've got a guy... We already know they need to retool the wide receiver group. We know that some of these young offensive linemen need to grow and produce eventually. There's going to be some turnaround on offense. We know that Zach Ertz is what he is. He's a very dependable target who's not going to get you a lot of yards after the catch.
Although he had a yards after the catch play today, Everybody was shocked.
Yak Ertz. And Dallas Goedert continues to blossom. But when you have that running back really established and you have the type of offensive line that you have, that will help Carson Wentz in the future. It'll help this offense in the future. It'll help Doug Peterson play calling.
And it'll allow Howie Roseman just focus on getting pass catching up.
Exactly. I think running back's taken care of for a really long time based on what I've seen the last 3 years.
So they actually put Miles on the podium, which they only do when a guy's accomplished something pretty special.
Basically when he breaks a record,
And he did the whole classic, like, pretending like he didn't know about it kind of thing, which is definitely not true. But he's like, here's the quote. He said, "It's a blessing, man. This stuff doesn't feel real. I don't want to make this about me, but it's great to be mentioned by those guys, to be in the same conversation as those guys. But I was focused on getting this W, man. We know it's in front of us." So I think he's in the right headspace.
Very mature.
He's a guy that pays attention to this kind of stuff, but
absolutely,
he's better than I thought he was going to be as a rookie, to be honest.
Oh, absolutely. All
right, another good.
One more note on that. He came into the game as the only rookie in the NFL with 500 rushing yards and 300 receiving yards. Now he's the only rookie in the NFL to have over 600 rushing yards and 400 receiving yards.
I wonder if he gets any top. I don't know how the voting works for Offensive Rookie of the Year, but I wonder if he gets any votes.
I think Jacobs is going to run away with it because of touchdowns. But
do you know if they only do first place votes or do they do like a top 3 with that? I'm not sure.
No, it's the guy, and then maybe he'll get votes. But
that's what I'm saying. Because I'm not sure he was going to like 5 weeks ago. But
sure.
Another positive one. I think we're going to continue to rave about this dude, Greg Ward. I tweeted this after the game. You could say right now that he's the most talented wide receiver on this team, and that wouldn't be considered a hot take, which says a lot about where the state of the team, but also says a lot about where he is. He was the guy on that last drive. I think he had like 4 of his catches on that last drive, including the touchdown, which is a really good touchdown where he went up and got it. Like Carson Wentz just lit up talking about him. They really love this guy. I think Malcolm Jenkins said earlier this week, he's been saying all year they should have called him up. I think everybody in Philadelphia has been thinking that besides Howie and Doug for whatever reason. I'm still curious. At some point, I wonder if they're going to admit their mistake on that. I don't think they have yet. But he's like Carson Wentz just trusts him, which is the most important thing. If you listen back to all of our post-game podcasts, I think you'll hear us talking about how he just doesn't seem like he trusts his receivers. He didn't trust J.J. Arcega-Whiteside. He didn't trust Nelson Aguilar. he didn't even trust Alshon Jeffrey, but he trusts Greg Ward as much as anyone he's been throwing to besides Zach Ertz this year.
Yeah, I mean, I think that if you look at this team as a whole, the biggest glaring weakness is the wide receiver depth, obviously. And coming into this game, look, Greg Ward's the only wide receiver that caught a pass today. I think that says a lot.
Yeah. And the only other one, J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, had 2 targets and 0 catches.
Yeah, and it looked like he ran a couple of really bad routes. So, yeah, I mean, look, maybe Nelson Aguilar comes back for this Dallas game, and then you got 2 guys, but keep in mind, Nelson Aguilar works his best out of the slot, and so does Greg Ward.
Yep.
So
it's almost a Golden Tate situation again.
Yeah, I don't think you can downplay what Greg Ward has done. I know that there have been folks out there that have over the last few weeks. I think he's just got dependable hands. He knows the timing of routes.
Yeah.
He's the only guy that really knows where to be.
He's
it seems
athletic.
like. And look, I thought that was a really clutch play. Josh Norman's not the cornerback he was 2 years ago, but I mean, Greg Ward made a leaping catch over him in a tight space. And I think that's really impressive. This is a guy who was a college quarterback just 3 years ago. So I think he's a phenomenal story. It seems like every week they're getting a guy who was on the practice squad or a guy who was overlooked to step up. Last week it was Boston Scott. This week it's Greg Ward. Maybe next week it'll be Rob Davis or who knows. But
somebody on the practice squad now or something.
Yeah, it's weird because, like, you want to criticize the team for not making the move sooner, but you also want to praise the team for being able to develop them behind the scenes.
Well, there's a criticism and praiseworthy there.
Yeah, for sure. And I think if we're being fair, listen, Greg Ward didn't make the team three times, and now here he is. You know, I think that's just really impressive. I think it's impressive what he's been able to do.
Some more positives. Boston Scott had another good game, 7 catches, 39 yards, 6 carries, 26. They have a nice 1-2 punch there. And then if Howard there was a report that he might be back for the Dallas game. If that's the case, we talked about this. That's like an ideal trio of guys. I'm curious how they start splitting up the carries. Howard was playing well before he got hurt. There's no denying that. Other good. Dallas Goedert had a great one-handed catch late in the game.
Yeah, that was incredible.
Really, really good.
Yeah, that was something.
Like I've said, he's so tantalizing because he still makes a lot of mistakes, but when he makes plays, it's just he's getting yards after the catch. He's doing one-handed catches. This dude one day will be a Pro Bowl tight end. I don't know if that means it'll be here because Zach Ertz is going to be here for a long time, but you have to be pretty happy with Dallas Goedert. I think the offensive line, for the most part, played pretty well, right?
Yeah, I think that's fair.
With that. Is there anyone else you want to highlight good-wise?
Carson Wentz.
Yeah, okay, let's talk about Carson Wentz now in that play. So, Carson Wentz, 30 of 43, 266 yards, 3 touchdowns. Got off to a slow start again. I think some of it had to do with the receivers not being in the right spot or J.J. Arcega-Whiteside dropping a touchdown. 3 touchdowns, 0 picks, 109 quarterback rating. He did lose another fumble, but I think you come out of this feeling pretty good again about Carson Wentz.
Absolutely.
As people are getting really loud with the trash right now.
You know what?
Goes with this trash stadium. Sorry.
Yeah, you really hate the stadium more than even I do.
It really sucks.
Carson Wentz is a guy that I think has had to deal with a lot of criticism, some of it very well earned, and some of it not so much deserved. And I think when you look at what he's been able to accomplish as far as we talked about it earlier, not showing any panic and showing resiliency, I think he's done a really good job, especially in the last month, of showing, you know what, yeah, we're down, but we're not going to give up. And I think that speaks volumes about him as a leader and as a quarterback. And I think it speaks volumes about how the offense feels about him and how much it trusts his ability to make plays. Carson's not going to be liked by everyone. But when you have a guy who can play to the level that he can play when he is at his best, you're going to gain some respect from him, and you're going to, want to make plays for him because he's going to put the ball, 7 out of 10 times in the right place, and I think that that's important.
So speaking of putting the ball in the right place, he might have had it's at least one of his best throws of his career, if not his best.
That was the best throw of his career. Yeah.
So it was in the third quarter? Yeah, it was late in the third quarter.
No, it was the second quarter.
No, it was the third. The Miles Sanders touchdown?
Yeah, the Miles Sanders was the second quarter.
It was the third quarter.
Are you sure?
Yes, I'm absolutely. I wrote a whole story about it, Mike.
Oh, duh. Oh, okay. Sorry.
But yeah, it was at the end of the third quarter. So the Eagles kind of slowly worked their way up the field, and then it was 2nd and 9, I believe. And so Carson Wentz, Miles Sanders runs out to the flat. It was just supposed to just be a short pass. Carson Wentz starts scrambling to the outside. Miles Sanders realizes that he's scrambling, so he runs to the corner of the end zone. The linebacker thinks he's going to cut across the middle, and he doesn't, so he's kind of just alone in the back of the corner. Carson Wentz sees him. He throws one of the hardest balls he's ever thrown out of the outstretched arms of 2 Redskins defensive players, and Miles Sanders reels it in as he falls to the ground. And it was just a great catch, really heady play. Carson Wentz said I asked him, like, did you know it was a touchdown when you let go of the ball? He's like, I was really nervous about it, to be honest. But then when he came down with it, I was really stoked. It was just, when Carson Wentz does that kind of stuff, that's when you start thinking again, like, okay, if he can get some receivers in the building with him, maybe he can have that MVP-type season next year.
Yeah, sure. I talked to Zack after the game about it, and he was on the other side of the field, and all he saw was Carson launch the ball, and then he saw the touchdown, signal, and so he didn't even see Miles Sanders come down. That's how chaotic it was in the red zone. So I think, Carson does have some Brett Favre to him where he will make a dangerous throw every now and then, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. He's not going to kind of settle, and I think that that's impressive in certain moments, and in other moments it can be really bad.
Yeah.
3 touchdowns today, completed almost 70% of his passes, threw for over 250 yards, yada, yada, yada. I think Carson Wentz is a top 10 quarterback in this league. Is he going to get into that upper echelon of top 5 to 7? We'll see. If he keeps playing the way he is in late game drives and eventually against good teams, then I think, he can get there. But this team's on the cusp of the playoffs because of what he has done to elevate the talent around him in recent weeks.
All right, let's get to the bad and the ugly. I think they kind of go together because a lot of this was ugly. But we can start with J.J. Arcega-Whiteside since we've teased that a little bit. He had 2 targets, 0 catches for 0 yards. We talked all week, we wrote all week about how this was going to be, these next few weeks was going to be his chance to prove that he was worth the 2nd-round pick, to prove that he's worth building around in the receiver core. He doesn't look like he's made any progress. He wasn't getting open. I know you said you saw a few times where he ran the wrong route.
It looked like he ran the wrong route.
It was going to be like a semi-difficult catch, but Carson Wentz hit him pretty much in the chest. He was defended pretty closely, but it hit him in the chest, and he dropped it in the end zone early in the game. Like, they don't have any other options. Like, they have to play him, but it's pretty clear he's not ready, and it's kind of alarming because you hear a guy came from Stanford, you expect him to be ready to play when he comes to the NFL, and this dude needs to develop. He shouldn't be playing as much as he is, honestly.
Yeah,
but they don't have a choice.
Like, Stanford guys aren't known for their athleticism; they're known for their minds. And I don't think his issue and why he's not ready is his athleticism. I think he really genuinely is learning the positions in the NFL, and that's not helpful when you're a 2nd-round pick. The team's invested a lot in you, and they need you to make plays. And I just don't see it. I mean, I've seen it at times. We've seen glimpses, but. Yeah, man, like, when you see guys like Terry McLaurin or even guys like Cam Sims make plays that JJ has never made, I'm sure it's disheartening to the front office because the kid is being invested in pretty heavily.
Yeah, and so now you wonder, like, if they just plan to build this receiving core as if he's just, like, an auxiliary part of it next year. Like, they just draft a couple guys that are better than him, and he's just there in the depth chart, and then he eventually fades away. Like, I know it's an extreme, and he has time to get better, but if this is supposed to be a historic receiver class, so if they get CeeDee Lamb in the 1st round, and then there's a guy sitting there in the 3rd or the 4th round that's a deep threat or a possession guy, I don't know if you pass him over because you have JJ already.
No, if CeeDee Lamb's there, you're.
I'm saying if you already have Lamb, you're not going to say, okay, we don't need another one since we already have JJ in the building.
Well, I think the prudent plan would be to have your sights set on drafting a wide receiver in the 1st or 2nd round, and maybe signing somebody like Robbie Anderson or Philip Dorsett or DeMarcus Robinson to be that like veteran.
Free agency wide receiver class,
right? But you need a veteran. You do need to bring in a second contract veteran, a young guy,
an adult in the room.
Yes.
But yeah, so we don't need to dwell too much on JJ, but it was not a great game for him.
Let's talk about the corners.
Yeah, I was about to say the secondary in general. Honestly, I think we can lump them all together because I think the safeties have not done a good job of helping the cornerbacks. To be honest,
correct. I agree with you.
Especially, so there was the one play where Dwayne Haskins basically threw it to 3 Eagles players, and Malcolm Jenkins PBU'd Rodney McLeod
interception. Yeah,
basically he knocked it away from his own teammate. But yeah, the corners, Jalen Mills didn't have a good game again. He was covering McLaurin on the touchdown, but it wasn't his fault because Maddox and his missed tackle kind of took out Mills on the play too.
Yeah. Mills kind of slowed down so the Maddox could make the tackle.
Yeah, but so we mentioned Maddox a little bit. I think it's concerning that he hasn't really gotten better from last year, where he was a really impactful player. Maybe that was an anomaly. I don't know. But that's alarming. Jalen Mills has been bad. I didn't notice Darby as much this game, but the Redskins only have one wide receiver, so I imagine he just wasn't covering McLaurin for the most part. And then the safeties, Malcolm is still Malcolm, but I don't know. The secondary is concerned. They need to completely retool it next year, I think.
Certainly, I agree with you completely. And just an update, because we are talking about this immediately after the game. The Cowboys are up 34-7.
Jeez.
With roughly 14 minutes left in the game. They also have the ball. So,
my God.
Yeah, Week 16 and Week 17 are going to mean something. The Eagles had the Rams defeated the Cowboys, would then basically be in a win and in situation. Now they have to beat the Cowboys and they have to beat the Giants. So, unless the Cowboys lose to the Redskins, which after watching today, I don't think that's going to happen. So,
well, if the Cowboys win next week, I believe they win the division because they have the tiebreakers now. So.
Well, no, if they lose to the Redskins, the Eagles can still get in.
Because if they tie, the Cowboys have the tiebreaker.
Yeah, but they would be 7-7, and then.
Because next week it's over.
Yeah, because if they beat the Rams, you're right. Sorry, this cold's killing me. But yeah, Week 16 is Week 16, and that's going to be big. And the secondary, speaking of the secondary. Is really going to need a step up.
Gallup,
yeah.
So, especially now that it looks like the Cowboys maybe have figured things out a little bit by destroying the Rams, I think if the Cowboys play well, I don't even know if it matters if the Eagles are playing their best game because they're just not as talented of a team as the Dallas Cowboys are.
Yeah, I agree with
that. So, as we see it right now, I think the Cowboys are going to win, but the Cowboys have proven they can completely fall apart. So that's what the Eagles pretty much need that to happen, and they need Carson Wentz to be good from quarter one.
So we say that the Cowboys are more talented. Let's not get lost in translation here.
On offense, at least.
On offense, they are more talented, yes.
They try to score more points. So.
Yeah, right. No, it's true. I also think the Cowboys' defense isn't very good. They're playing well tonight.
The Cowboys' defense not being very good doesn't mean the Eagles' defense is good either.
Correct. Yeah, they're not mutually exclusive. But my point is I do think it'll be a close game regardless of what happens. I don't think it's going to be the 38-7 or whatever it was. 38 to what was it? 38 to
what the last time they played?
Yeah,
I forget.
I think it was 38-10.
It was bad,
yeah, it's not going to be that. I think it's probably going to be a game where both teams are in the 20s. Yeah, right now I would probably pick the Cowboys with the way that they're manhandling the Rams. But it's a home game. It's the NFC East. You never know, and
that's for sure.
Look, division games are typically tight.
This stupid division.
Yeah, this is something else. But yeah, man. Their backs are against the wall, and typically Doug Peterson teams play well when their backs are against the wall. So it's hard to kind of rule them out. But right now I'd probably pick the Cowboys.
If both teams are playing well, then the Cowboys have the edge. Is what I would say.
Yes.
All right. Before we go, just one more reminder: sign up for EaglesExtra. We're having a really good time with it so far. We're already building a little community. We'd love you guys to join us. It's free for 2 weeks after you sign up. Go to the NJ.com/Eagles, and you can get some text messages from Mike and I, which I know you guys have all dreamed of.
Listen, my wife really appreciates it when I text her, so I'm sure you guys
or his wife would appreciate if other people would start texting him.
We have gotten a couple of questions, examples that Zack and I will respond to via the text message. But before we do that, let's record that on here. So the first one is, should Greg Ward be a starting wide receiver when the Eagles look to make moves in the offseason? at this point, not in the traditional sense. I think
he'll play a role on this team, though.
Yeah, I think if you wanted him to be your slot receiver and maybe he's competing for that job, that makes sense. I mean, he's cheap. He knows the offense better, as well as anyone. He's been around for 3 years. He seems to be very confident. He's got good hands. I could see him developing into a role player. I don't know if he's necessarily going to be a starter in the traditional sense. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I agree with that.
And the second question is, does Sidney Jones get another shot at starting with the bad play of Darby and Douglas?
I don't know about him starting. He did. I mean, he was impressive that he made that play last week. I don't know if we should put too much emphasis on that. I think you kind of saw what kind of player Sidney is already.
Yeah, I think Sidney is a utility player for this team. I think he's been burned so many times, both figuratively and literally.
I'd give Craig James a shot before him.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think a breakup in the offseason is mutually beneficial, yeah. So, like I said, send us your questions. We'll answer them privately and through the system of EaglesExtra, and then we'll also talk about them on the show.
Yeah. All right, guys, sign up for that. We order you to do so. Leave us some reviews, write us some comments. We hope you enjoyed this one. We'll talk to you again soon.